Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Hello, you made the trip to Eugene Cannabis TV. You got your host DanK and my good friend Reverend Will. We're here to talk about some news items, both local, statewide, and federal, and all over. So we want to talk about OCTA right real quick. At the beginning, OCTA, we have an initial OCTA 2012. We have a legalization initiative on the ballot, so we'll be talking about that on and off. Now called Measure 80. But I wanted to start out by starting an article that was really exciting. It came out of Florida. This is in the newspaper, the Sun Sentinel. Seniors turning to pot to ease the aches of aging. The kindly gent with the rose garden, the cute little old lady in the deli line, the mahjong master at the community center, anyone could be among a growing portion of our aging population, the senior stoner. A retiree rich southern Florida, some golden agers are gasp, sporting illegal smiles as they discreetly puff on joints to ease the aches and pains of advancing years. It's like taking a magic pill, said a 70-year-old Boca Raton, Florida woman who smokes pot almost daily to counteract cancer chemotherapy pain. Such scofflaws opt to flout convention rather than suffer, and their numbers are hardly insubstantial. 30% of Americans 50 and older have tried pot, according to a 2009 survey by the government's Substance Abuse and Mental Health Data Archive. Last year, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health estimated that drug use among seniors has increased more than 3% over the last 8 years. The number is expected to triple by 2020.
So we have another recent convert. She's 70 years old from Delray Beach, Florida. A woman who calls herself Mary, and here's her qualifications. I'm a good Catholic. I'm a good Catholic church-going person, she said. I've never taken a drug in my life. But when a friend with an out-of-state prescription for medical pot offered a joint to alleviate the excruciating pain of a shoulder injury, Mary took a chance. I had one hit and I went, oh dear God, this is awesome, she said. It absolutely should be legalized. For years, a 65-year-old Pompano Beach, Florida retiree tried every manner of drug from Dilaudid to morphine to battle pain from damaged bones, arthritis, and fibromyalgia. I've been on all the hard drugs and nothing happens, he said. Then he sampled a little reefer. I'll tell you, the first hit there was zip-a-dee-doo-dah-day, he said. The only thing that helps is happy grass. Obtaining the illicit weed can be problematic for seniors. The Boca Raton, Florida cancer victim relies on her husband. While retaining plausible deniability, he might get it on the golf course, she said. I don't know where, and I don't ask. The Pompano Beach man grows pot in his backyard, cures it, and smokes it by the thimbleful in a hookah-like machine. I'm thinking of putting signs out in my yard. They could say, legalize pot. One of his Happy Grass pals is 80. Celeste Wheeler, 89, also of Pompano Beach, has never tried it, but is curious about joining the Reefer Club. I'm very interested, she said. Maybe something could help my back pain.
Yeah, it's amazing. These stories are here all the time.
The thing is, though, that we're the ones who hear about them because we're the ones who care. We're the ones that open ourselves up to be there to listen to the people who are having a hard time understanding why their word is not as revered as the federal government's word, which we all know they're a bunch of liars. I mean, they've lied about everything from how we get into wars to why we're paying so much for oil, as to what really happened on 9/11. I mean, all these things are just lies that the government puts out. So why would you believe them about this when they definitely have a vested interest in keeping it away from the FDA? Because the FDA knows that there's no way they could control this, and it's so beneficial that it would stop so many of the prescription drug things from happening. And that's the biggest complaint at this point in time, is putting prescription drug businesses out of work.
Yes, and for senior citizens becoming aware of this is exciting, because I have a friend of mine whose mother died of cancer and had a horrible death, but she would not try pot, even though he was an avid cannabis user himself, and she would have no part of it because it was illegal.
Right,
They believe before the medical, and and she wouldn't do it because it's illegal. And here she is, terminal, suffering, and she still won't do it because it's illegal. And I'll talk about brainwashed, you know.
Just for all you who may have noticed my wonderful T-shirt here and able to really catch it on this little marijuana leaves on this U of O, one of the things that we would like to say is that we really appreciate the football players for choosing marijuana over alcohol. I mean, they're not out at these big parties and stuff. They're just smoking their spleefs or whatever to relax. And it would be nice if they could get recognition for this ability to be smart enough to pick what they choose to be the best thing to help them relax. I mean, after all, we have one of the fastest, most insane teams out there as far as movement goes. And yet, when you smoke herb, you're not supposed to be able to function, much as less function at such an incredible high rate of speed. So for me, folks, once again, use your head to figure out if what you see jives with what the federal government's telling you about how it makes people act and react.
He served Michael Phelps pretty well up until he bailed out.
See, that's the whole thing. Is it the pressure that he had to deal with of not being able to relax the way he would like to going into the Olympics that caused him not to be totally on top of his game? I mean, understand, you really need to challenge the government because they lie.
We need to dig that letter out and read that again on the air.
The
letter that Michael Phelps should have written when they got the flack for pot the last Olympics.
Right, and then you've got like this. I mean, we actually have to create bills to be able to tell the truth, because if you tell the truth, you can be punished. Do you want to start this one off?
Yeah, New Jersey Good Samaritan overdose bill has passed. A bill designed to reduce drug overdose deaths by providing some legal protection to people who witness them and some medical assistance has been approved by the state legislature and now awaits the signature of Governor Chris Christie, Republican. The bill passed the Senate Monday on a 21-10 vote. It had cleared the Assembly back in May. The bill, Assembly Bill 578, also known as the Good Samaritan Emergency Response Act, would provide limited legal protection against drug possession charges for people who witness an overdose and call 911. It is aimed at reducing drug overdose deaths by reducing the fear of arrest for those might call for assistance. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, drug overdoses are now the leading cause of accidental death.
Listen to that, folks. The leading cause of accidental death.
Replacing automobile accidents. Wow. More than 27,000 people died from drug overdose in 2007, most of them from prescription opiates, either by themselves or in combination with other drugs, including alcohol. Many drug overdose deaths occur in the presence of others and take hours to occur, meaning that there is time and opportunity to call for help. But strict enforcement of drug possession laws, would-be Samaritans, discourages some from making that call. Advocates are applauding the passage of the life-saving bill.
See, this next line is incredible. It just says, as should be. Calling 911 should never be a crime. Our current policies focus on punishment and drive people into the shadows and away from helping those in need. Saving lives should always take priority over punishing behavior. A Good Samaritan law will encourage people to get and to give help. When a life is on the line, we can ill afford to waste time weighing the consequences of calling 911 or deciding whether or not to be truthful about what substance was used to overdose. By nearly eliminating the criminal consequences one might face after calling 911 to report an overdose, I hope to diminish any hesitation one might have about doing the right thing, said Senate bill sponsor Senator Joseph Vitale, Democrat. I and my family are so grateful to the Senate for passing this life-saving legislation, said Patty D. Renzo, whose son, Salvatore, died of an overdose at age 27. We and the other families who have lost loved ones to overdose will be advocating with Governor Christie to urge him to sign this bill. It's extremely important that we prevent future overdose deaths and spare other families the grief that mine has endured. If Governor Christie signs the bill into law, New Jersey will become the 9th state to enact a Good Samaritan law. And this is the kind of thing we're talking about. We actually have to create a law in order to be able to help people. I mean, oh man, is our society twisted, and it's not our fault. I mean, the people who smoke pot, it's not our fault that you're having to do all these things. I mean, you've been picking on us for years. You know, you don't listen to us. You have no proof. You have no credible proof, although you sit down and say there's all this science that tells you how bad marijuana is. But understand, the government was dictated to find things within marijuana that created problems. And they're still not telling the truth about them. So, we've got 2 minutes left.
The other states are Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Rhode Island, and Washington. Similar legislation is pending in several other states. According to this, I noticed the only state on the left half of the United States is Washington. All the rest are back east. Yeah. Well, no, New Mexico. New Mexico. But anyway, that's a great thing, and our friend Sam Chapman at the SSDP U of O chapter has been working on that and trying to get that implemented actually at the U of O as a policy. So it hasn't happened yet, but the groundwork's been laid. Of course, now that he's graduated, I hope that somebody's going to be carrying it on.
Pick up the slack. Well, that's one of the things, folks, like when we were talking about Measure 80 just a little bit ago, Washington and Colorado have money that they've generated in the tune of $1 million to $3 million. We have $1,000 so far that's been raised to help us get information out to people so that we can remind them that they need to register and they need to vote. And it's happening at the same time we're voting for the president this year. And we have the opportunity to get this bill passed, M80. And it's all about freedom. It's all about us being able to be adults and to be treated as adults. So hopefully people are going to get out there in droves, whether they happen to hear about it through word of mouth, hopefully, the internet. We're all connected to the internet, or a lot of us are. So let's be talking about this. Let's talk it up as something that's really beneficial so that we can make a difference and show how herb can be used. Maybe we'll be able to use industrial. We're still not sure about that. So that's the one thing that we're working about now. And we're going to wrap this up, and we'll be back in a few. So
that's right. So register to vote by October 16th to vote in the November 6th election. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
Thanks and praises. Okay, how many people out here go to Reggae on the River?
Welcome back. We have some more news from you on the Eugene Cannabis TV show. You got DanK and my friend Reverend Will here, and we're talking about news stories. This one here is, as we'd like to say, on the West Coast, or the left coast. We're on the left coast. This is the left coast. 3 states have legalization initiatives on the ballot in November this year, November 6th, and that's Washington, Colorado, and Oregon. We've got a letter, or I mean an article here, come out from Reuters. This was on the WKZL.com website. Legal backers raised $3 million in 2 states. So campaigns to become the first U.S. states to legalize marijuana for recreational use in Washington and Colorado raised $3 million ahead of a November vote, far outpacing the opposition. Proponents of pot legalization in Washington state have raised nearly $2 million since the initiative qualified for the ballot in January, and about $1 million in Colorado since its measure earned a place on the ballot the following month, according to the most recent state campaign figures. In Oregon, where a voter referendum qualified in July, the legalization campaign reported less than $1,000 in contributions. All 3 state measures go on the ballot in November, when Americans vote for president and other offices. Like their war chest, backers of legalization drives in Washington state and Colorado already bought television ads in a bid to convince voters, especially those who have never smoked pot, of merits of legalizing and taxing it. Legalizing the drug for recreational purposes would run afoul of the federal government, which says that marijuana is a dangerous narcotic. The referendums in the 3 western states, among the 17 that already allow marijuana for medical purposes, comes as some states battle with the federal government over its raids of medical marijuana dispensaries. If one of these initiatives wins, it'll really be a breakthrough, said Ethan Nadelman, Executive Director of the Drug Policy Alliance, which seeks alternatives to the current U.S. policy to combat drug use. And in the end, just as there has been a federal-state conflict involving medical marijuana, we anticipate there will be similar conflicts when states begin to legally regulate marijuana like alcohol, he said. But the only way we think change can happen is through this process. Polls indicate support in Colorado and Washington for legalizing pot. A July poll by Survey USA of 630 registered voters in Washington state said 55% backed the marijuana legalization ballot measure. The margin of error was 4%. Rasmussen reports said its June poll of likely Colorado voters showed 61% supported legalizing and regulating pot. The survey had 500 respondents and a margin of 4.5%. Billionaire Peter Lewis, the Ohio-based chairman of Progressive Insurance, side note, by the way, that's where I get my insurance, and that's why I support him.
There you go.
Who helped finance successful state law campaigns for medical marijuana, has emerged as the Washington state legalization measures largest supporter with total contributions this year of $875,000. So you're welcome. Part of my money is there, so you're welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
A representative for Lewis declined requests for comment. Drug Policy Action, a group related to New York-based Drug Policy Alliance, has given $600,000 this year to the Washington legalization campaign. The Washington, D.C.-based Marijuana Policy Project has given the 2 registered groups behind the Colorado campaign most of their roughly $1 million in funds. State records show. Lists of donors to Marijuana Policy Project and Drug Policy Action are not publicly available. And by the way, just a side note, inside of this, you wouldn't hear it anywhere else, but I can guarantee tell you something, as an activist in the state of Oregon, the NPP hasn't put any money into the legalization initiative in the state of Oregon, and I don't know if they will or not, but they haven't up to this point, and they don't like Oregon. They feel that we have too much infighting in this state, and we're too disorganized, and they don't want anything to do with us. That's the story.
Yeah, it's okay though, because see, the whole thing is that through word of mouth, we could definitely get the word out. I mean, understand, folks, the way we used to get information around this country was hitchhiking. You would go from one town to another, and you would find out what's happening where you've been, and then you find out what's happening where you're going. And you take that information and you bring it to the next town, next community. Let's do that again. I mean, as far as the internet goes and being around Oregon, we're always hitching rides, going from one place to another, going to different shows and stuff. It's time for us to really get on this bandwagon and make it happen. I mean, what harm does it do to put it on the ballot? And I mean, now we have it on the ballot. All we have to do is vote for it and make it real. And if we make it real, then we can show them what we can do. So let's take a shot, huh? It would be really nice. it's talking about here also, it's talking about legal at 21. It just says the ballot measures in all 3 states would legalize marijuana for people 21 and older, impose state-level taxes on the drug, and allow sales of the drug at special pot stores. One of the canards the other side puts out is that keeping marijuana, even in small amounts, illegal is essentially equivalent to a modern-day prohibition for alcohol, which is a joke, said Cully Stimson, Chief of Staff for Conservative Heritage Foundation, which opposes legalization. Stimson said having only a couple drinks a day is healthy. With marijuana use, the purpose is to get high. I'm sorry, I'm going to call bull on this. Drinking even a couple drinks a day makes you an alcoholic. Okay, so let's cut this crap of marijuana is such an addictive substance and it's all this and all that and all these bad things, and having a couple drinks is really healthy for you. Understand this, being a drunk does nothing to help society in any way, shape, or form. And if you have to have 2 drinks to make it through the day, you're just as bad as anybody out there having a couple puffs. Much, much worse. Impaired driving, impaired ability to be cognitive in your thinking. I mean, I don't know what the heck this person's talking about, but I'd love to sit down and debate him anytime. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. In Colorado, the campaign to regulate marijuana, like alcohol, spent $800,000 for fall season TV ads. Nice. Yeah,
and by the way, that it says the ballot measure in all 3 states would legalize marijuana for people 21 and older. That's a big thing. Some states, Oregon, in both 86 and 88, both tried to go for 18 and above, and also Alaska, I don't remember the year, but Alaska also tried to go for 18 and above, and all 3 failed. And I'd be the first one to say 18-year-olds should be able to smoke pot, but we're trying to get legalization and go against the grain and fight all the ignorance and trying to get people that are on the fence to come to our side. I say go to 21, we work on 18-year-olds later. We've got to go to 21. It's going to have the only chance to make it. So that's what all 3 initiatives have done, thank heaven. I believe the last try they did in Washington, it was 18 and above. They didn't even get on the ballot. But so anyway, this one's 18 and above, or 21 and above, so I'm glad to see that.
Let's see, this is like this next one that we're going to talk about here, which is the PTSD.
Yeah.
I don't understand why these people do not recognize our ability to tell them things about ourselves that we know are true, and they have the audacity to tell us that they're not.
Right. What we're talking about is that the Oregon medical marijuana, we tried to get PTSD as listed as a condition for Oregon medical marijuana patients. I know for a fact we've tried twice, maybe more, but I know for a fact it's been at least twice. Went through a lengthy process, well documented with a lot of evidence, and yet they were turned down twice. Now, the state doesn't have a problem with raising the rates on patients and giving and gouging the hell out of them for their permit, for their card, but they can't put any more conditions on the program. And PTSD is so badly needed with our vets not coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that are needing it for PTSD. But anyway, it's good that they're trying again, and then you come up with pinheads like this. This is Daryl and Abba, Director of Clinical and Behavioral Health Services at the Addictions Recovery Center in Medford, opposes expanding Oregon's medical marijuana program to include PTSD. PTSD sufferers, he said, should be treated with medications that don't pose the same addiction risk. People have to realize marijuana is very addicting, said Inaba. Although he emphasized that he sees some medical value in marijuana, Inaba said the drug causes, quote, causes both physical and emotional addiction. Right,
so here, listen to this on the other hand. Oregon is home to an estimated 300,000 veterans, including more than 20,000 from the Iran-Afghanistan conflicts, according to the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. A 2008 RAND Corporation study found nearly 20% of Iraq and Afghanistan vets reported PTSD symptoms. So you talk about caring about us, listen to us then. Jason Hansman, Senior Program Manager for the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, said medical marijuana's potential to help sick veterans deserves serious examination. We treat it like any other new treatment technique. We want to see it studied. We want to see increased research to see if it's a viable solution. His group represents 145,000 veterans. Understand, we've never been able to do testing on this stuff because of the federal government's anal process where they just continuously lie about how bad marijuana is supposed to be for you. Cancer patients should be up in arms. Their families should be going nuts over the fact that the federal government is not telling you the truth about cancer and how this can help. As a matter of fact, next week on this show, we're going to bring in a friend. His name's Philip, and he is a person who has had dialysis for 25 years and watched hundreds, maybe thousands of people around him die from their diseases related to dialysis while he's continued to live. And what he says helps him, this will be from his own lips, a survivor, marijuana.
Yeah, and here's something that just jumped out at me. I didn't notice this before. I knew that New Mexico is the only state, I believe it still is, the only state that has PTSD as a condition for medical marijuana in their program. It says New Mexico, which legalized medical marijuana in 2007, the inclusion of PTSD on the list has been significant. The New Mexico Department of Health said 40% of medical marijuana patients list PTSD as their qualifying condition, far more than any other condition. Wow, that's fascinating. I was told that chronic pain was the most common condition, and I was told that it's been at 60% of the patients in the state of Oregon are on for chronic pain, and I was also understood that that was also pretty common statewide, the other states with medical marijuana. So this is the first time I've seen the PTSD listed this high, but I do know that New Mexico is the only, or at least I was the only one.
Well, we have so much more that we'd like to tell you, but it's time for us to go, and so we're not going to be able to finish.
That's right.
Up
I wanted to go through the process to tell you how hard it is to try to get it. They only had one condition added to the program since they initiated it. So.
Well, we want to remind you about M80. We want you to pay attention. Here you go. Get a big bang.
That's right. M80. Get a big bang for your vote. Vote on M80, legalization, tax and regulate. That's octa2012.org.
Gotta do it. Thanks.